Hey everyone, we know how hard it can be to keep up with the latest news in Israel, so if you haven't had the time to stay on top of what's what in the Holy Land with ILTV, have no worries. It's time for our new show this week in Israel, where we'll give you the scoop on everything you need to know about the last 7 days right from Tel Aviv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, here to keep you informed. Now here's our breaking story of the day. Israel and the Palestinian Authority have reached a historic water agreement that could save the Dead Sea. The deal will lead to the construction of a 137-mile-long pipeline from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea. The new canal claims to provide desalinated water for Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority, and to replenish the rapidly shrinking Dead Sea. The agreement has just been announced at a Jerusalem press conference attended by U.S. Middle East envoy Greenblatt, along with Israel's regional cooperation minister and the head of the Palestinian Water Authority. It's part of a much larger trilateral arrangement between Israel, the PA, and Jordan, and Greenblatt is calling the deal an omen of things to come.
As we all know, water is a precious commodity in the Middle East. The United States welcomes the agreement reached by the Palestinian Authority and the government of Israel, which will allow for the sale of up to 33 million cubic meters of water from Israel to the Palestinian Authority. In addition, we hope that this deal will contribute to the healing of the Dead Sea, and that it will help not only Palestinians and Israelis, but Jordanians as well.
It looks like the U.S. is going to be cutting about $10 billion worth of foreign aid, but it doesn't seem like Israel is going to be affected. U.S. President Donald Trump wants to cut $17 billion from the U.S. foreign aid budget to help pay for new expenditures, including his controversial wall between the United States and Mexico. But it looks like House Republicans aren't on board with all of his plans. They want to keep the $3 billion of yearly aid to Israel and $1.5 billion of aid to Egypt as is. They're on board with cutting U.S. payments to the UN by $600 million, however, and cutting economic aid to unstable countries by $4.2 billion. Unlike economic aid, U.S. military aid typically acts as a gift card or line of credit to purchase U.S.-made arms and equipment from companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin. So it essentially acts as a subsidy for the American arms industry. For Israel, it also acts as a source of funding for its missile defense programs, the Iron Dome short-range system, the medium-range David Sling, and the long-range Arrow defense system. The Iron Dome system, which mostly shoots down domestically produced Qassam rockets from the Gaza Strip, costs hundreds of millions of dollars a year to operate. Last year, the United States signed a $38 billion 10-year defense package to Israel, the largest ever aid agreement between the United States and any other country. Many were outraged this week when the Israeli chief rabbinate published a so-called black list of rabbis whose efforts to confirm the Jewish identities of immigrants are now considered invalid. Now, the chief Ashkenazi rabbi of Israel, David Lau, is disowning the controversial list, and he's even ordering an investigation into how it was published. In order to get married in Israel, immigrants must prove their Jewish identity. Typically, they do this with a letter from a rabbi in their country of origin. On Sunday, the JTA newspaper published a list of 160 rabbis from 24 different countries whose letters of Judaism the rabbinate has been rejecting. The chief rabbi is saying he was not aware of the existence of the list and that the list is actually being misconstrued. According to Lau's senior advisor, many letters were rejected because of irregularities or suspected forgeries. Seth Farber, the director of the ILTV organization, which helps people navigate the religious authorities' bureaucracy in Israel, says those claims are questionable. After all, if the problem was the documents, why did the rabbinate send out a list of rabbis' names? Of the 66 American rabbis on the list, at least 1/5 are Orthodox and almost all of the rest are Reform or Conservative. The publication of the list comes on the heels of the advancement of a bill that would give the chief rabbinate authority over all official Jewish conversions within Israel. All right, a new draft of the proposal for a very controversial bill is making its way around the Knesset this week, and critics are already blasting its language for supposedly stifling democracy. ILTV's Aaron Pors joins us in the studio now to fill us in on some of the details about this so-called NationState Bill. Now, Aaron, what is this new bill about?
So essentially, the NationState Bill redefines Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. However, it prioritizes the Jewish over the democratic. So essentially, functionally, how that works is that in any dispute, legally speaking, in the High Court of Israel, where democratic and religious views are at odds, the court will be forced to take the religious perspective.
So who is backing this proposition?
So as you might have guessed, the ruling coalition, which is led by the Likud party, Benjamin Netanyahu's party. But there's a lot more to it than that. There are a lot of different versions of the bill that are being spun around. It's not unanimous consent under any one version or language in the text. So there's a lot going on. I'll tell you more in the report.
The truth of the matter is that even within the ruling coalition, there is no consensus yet as to what should and should not be in the proposal's text. So multiple versions will likely be presented throughout the 3 readings that the bill must pass through to become law. One source speaking to Haaretz News reportedly said that, quote, Netanyahu is pressing to have the bill approved on its first reading within 2 weeks, so they will vote on a version that there is no full agreement on, and then they will try to resolve the differences in advance of a second and third reading after the Knesset recess, end quote. Primarily, disagreements arise over the nature of Israel's democracy. Some in the ministerial committee that's drafting the bill didn't want to include the word democracy at all. The bill also neglects to make any mention of the status of the Arabic language, leaving many government services in Arabic on the chopping block. What it appears we do know, though, is the direction the bill is supposed to take the country in. Likud MK Amir Ohana said, "We are not committed to any of the proposed versions, but we will absolutely hear everyone and try to arrive at a version that best expresses, without apologizing or quibbling, that in the state of Israel every individual has full human rights, while national rights are possessed by only one people, the Jewish people."
Israel and the Palestinian Authority have reached a historic agreement on West Bank electrical infrastructure, and Israeli officials are hailing the deal as a win-win for both sides. The deal has just turned on the new Al-Jalameh electrical substation near Jenin in the northwestern bank and will provide at least 60 more megawatts of power to the area. The ultimate goal is Palestinian energy independence. The agreement was signed by Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah and Israeli Energy and Resources Minister Yuval Steinitz, among other top officials.
זהו בהחלט רגע היסטורי מעודד שבו אנחנו חונכים את תחנת החשמל, התחמ"ש, תחנת המשנה הראשונה ברשות הפלסטינית. إنه لمن دواعي فخري وسروري أن أشارك اليوم افتتاح وتشغيل محطة الطاقة الكهربائية في الجلمي، والتي تعد بنية هامة في قطاع الطاقة الفلسطيني وتعزيز استقلاليته، وإحدى أهم السبل التي بها نلبي احتياجات المواطنين لتواكب الاحتياجات المتزايدة من الكهرباء.
The power station will be manned entirely by Palestinians. They'll be responsible for repairs and maintenance, and it's owned by the Palestinian Electric Authority and the PA. Minister Steinitz says that the deal benefits both sides. The Palestinians will get more electricity of better quality, and the Israel Electric Corporation won't be responsible for Palestinian electricity. The Palestinian purchase of the Al-Jalameh station was subsidized by Italy, Norway, the European Union, and the European Investment Bank. It's been 10 years since the Sunni Islamist group Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip, kicking Fatah members of the Palestinian Authority out. Now, the United Nations is saying that living conditions in the coastal enclave have substantially deteriorated to even worse than they'd anticipated. According to Robert Piper, the UN coordinator for human and development in the area, Gaza is now unlivable, and quality of life in the coastal enclave has been going down ever since Hamas took power.
Across the board, we're watching de-development in slow motion. Every indicator, from energy to water to healthcare to employment to poverty to food insecurity, every indicator is declining. Gazans have been going through this slow motion de-development now for a decade.
Israel imposes a blockade on the Gaza Strip along with Egypt as a means of preventing arms and materials that can be used for military purposes out of the hands of Hamas and other terrorist organizations. While Piper does say that doing so strangles the civilians in Gaza, he's less concerned with finger pointing than with figuring out how to change the current political arrangement.
Everyone's having a go, and I think that's the message in this report. The fundamental message is someone has got to step back and put the interests of civilians at the top of the queue for a change.
Lately, there's been talk in Israel about constructing an artificial island off of the coast of Gaza to serve as a port and possibly airport for the territory to fulfill the needs of the Palestinians while satisfying Israeli security needs. It looks like there could be an answer to tackling the humanitarian and economic problems that are plaguing the Gaza Strip, and at first glance, that answer looks pretty luxurious. No, that's not a luxury offshore development that you're looking at. Instead, it could be the floating future of the Gaza Strip, an artificial island just 3 miles off of the coast of the enclave that would be home to cargo and passenger ports, operation and management facilities, gas installations, and even a water desalination plant. Plus, it would even have enough space to host an airstrip. Israel's Intelligence and Transport Minister Israel Katz is the man behind the $5 million initiative, which would be financed by the international community.
Today, Israel continues to be perceived as being responsible for the Gaza Strip and is, to a large extent, the only lifeline to it, even though it withdrew from the Strip over a decade ago. Construction of an artificial island with a port and civilian infrastructure installations off the coast of Gaza will provide the Palestinians a humanitarian, economic, and transportation gateway to the world, without endangering Israel's security.
There are almost 2 million people living in the Gaza Strip, and residents have long described the coastal enclave as an open-air prison. There used to be an airport, but it's since been destroyed during 8 years of fighting between Hamas and Israel. And for Gazan fishermen trying to make a living, money can be hard to make when they're only allowed to venture a few nautical miles offshore. Restrictions like that are largely due to Israeli security concerns. The Hamas terror rulers of the Gaza Strip pledged to do everything in their power to destroy Israel, and the Jewish state must protect every one of its borders. But Minister Israel Katz says Israel must find a way to help Gazan civilians in need, and an artificial island is the answer.
I don't have any illusion about the Hamas. We know who is the Hamas, who is Yahya Sinwar, and the other people there. But I'm trying to separate between the civilian problems and military problems. It's difficult, but I think that we can do it very carefully, but we can do it.
For those Israelis worried about the security concerns, Katz has the answer. If an artificial island were to be created, Israel would remain in control of the security in the sea around the island and would also be responsible for security inspections in the port. Plus, a drawbridge on the road connecting the island to the Gaza Strip could be disconnected should the need arise. Israel and Egypt have imposed blockades on the Gaza Strip since Hamas took control in 2007, but it looks like an artificial island could be the key to providing Palestinians with a humanitarian, economic, and transportation gateway to the world without endangering Israel's security. Hamas has not officially responded to the idea. All right, this weekend was a rough one for Israel after the International Heritage Organization, UNESCO, declared that the old city of Hebron and the Cave of the Patriarchs are Palestinian World Heritage Sites and are being endangered by Israel. The PA is already hailing the vote as a victory over Israel, but it looks like the Israeli government is not having it. ILTV's Aaron Porras has more in the studio. So, Aaron, tell us about this.
So, essentially, both the Tomb of the Patriarchs and the Ibrahimi Mosque and the majority of the rest of Hebron has officially been declared by UNESCO as a Palestinian heritage site that is endangered by Israel, actively endangered by Israel. Now, Israel, clapping back kind of against this resolution, has not made any sort of claim that the tomb is not important to Muslims, but the assertion that it is solely a Palestinian heritage site and it's actively endangered by Israel is, as it should be, seen as a complete farce.
Now, I mean, you said that Israel is responding, but how is Israel responding?
So I'll get into the details. It's big news. I'll get into the details.
All right, let's check out your report.
עוד החלטה הזויה של אונסקו. הפעם הם קבעו שמערת המכפלה בחברון זה אתר פלסטיני, משמע לא יהודי, ושזה אתר בסכנה. לא אתר יהודי. מי קבעו שם? אברהם, יצחק, יעקב, שרה, רבקה, לאה, האבות והאימהות שלנו. ואתר בסכנה? הרי רק במקומות שישראל נמצאת, כמו חברון, מובטח חופש דת לכולם, במזרח התיכון מפוצצים את המסגדים, הכנסיות, בתי הכנסת, בכל שאר המקומות, במקומות שישראל לא נמצאת. אז אנחנו נמשיך לשמור על מערת המכפלה, על חופש דת לכולם, ונמשיך לשמור גם על האמת.
Speaking in solidarity with Netanyahu's comments, both President Rivlin and the Israeli Foreign Ministry's office attacked the history of anti-Israel bias at UNESCO, calling the decision a moral blot, and that the organization seemed intent on spreading anti-Jewish lies. In protest of the decision and others like it, Prime Minister Netanyahu went on to announce how he will be reducing the dues Israel pays to the UN by $1 million annually, instead planning to spend the money on a Jewish heritage center at the city of Hebron. United States Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley also condemned the decision, promising to take similar action. In a statement, Haley says that Washington will review its ties with UNESCO as a result, that the resolution undermines the trust that is needed for peace to be successful, that the decision further discredits an already highly questionable UN agency, and that the United States is currently evaluating the appropriate level of its continued engagement at UNESCO. According to UN Watch, UNESCO alone has adopted roughly 10 resolutions against Israel per year and has never criticized any other UN member state in a country-specific manner, with the single exception of one resolution against Syria in 2013.
The U.S. and Russia have finally been successful in negotiating a ceasefire in southern Syria, and it looks like Israel is showing support, although there are some reservations. The war in Syria has been raging for 6 years, causing around 350,000 casualties. And at times, tensions between the U.S. and Russia have threatened to turn into direct confrontation. U.S.-backed rebel groups have also been fighting Assad regime assets in the area, leading to a lot of the recent commotion. But now that the two superpowers have reached an agreement, things should be quieter as long as a ceasefire holds. The question for Israel is now what the new agreement will mean for Iran and Hezbollah.
ישראל תברך על הפסקת אש אמיתית בסוריה, אבל אסור שהפסקת אש זו תאפשר את התבססותן הצבאית של איראן וגרורותיה בסוריה בכלל ובדרום סוריה בפרט. בשבוע שעבר שוחחתי בנידון שיחות מעמיקות עם מזכיר המדינה טילרסון ועם נשיא רוסיה, יותר נכון, ולדימיר פוטין. שניהם אמרו לי שהם מבינים את עמדותיה של ישראל ושהם יתחשבו בדרישותינו. אנחנו מצידנו נמשיך לעקוב אחר המתרחש מעבר לגבולותינו, תוך עמידה איתנה על הקווים האדומים שלנו. מניעת התעצמות חיזבאללה דרך סוריה, בדגש על הצטיידות בנשק מדויק, מניעת התבססות קרקעית של חיזבאללה ליד גבולנו, או התבססות של כוחות איראנים, ומניעת התבססות צבאית איראנית בסוריה כולה.
Israel is wary of the possibility of a 2- or 3-front war involving forces in Lebanon, the Golan Heights, and possibly Iran. All right, the Palestinian Authority is reportedly blocking fuel payments from the Gaza Strip to Egypt, and it's having a major impact on the coastal enclave. Gaza officials say that the Palestinian Authority is blocking transfers from the Energy Authority in Gaza to Egypt, since all of the transfers have to go through Palestinian banks in the West Bank. The Energy Authority says that 2 out of 3 of the Gaza power plant's generators are offline because of the Palestinian Authority's actions. A PA spokesman says that the main reason for the worsening situation in Gaza is Hamas, as they've rejected Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's initiatives for reconciliation. Recently, Abbas stopped paying Israel for electrical service to Gaza, resulting in a substantial reduction of electrical service. It looks like now Egypt may be stepping in to fill the void. In exchange, they're pushing for Hamas to police its borders with Egypt and possibly to accept a new political leader in Gaza. It's everyone's favorite time of year. The sun is out, summer is here, and well, so are the Jewish Olympics, otherwise known as the Maccabiah Games. Yes, I said it, the games have officially kicked off, and ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here to tell us her thoughts. So, Emmanuel, tell us.
Yes, everyone get ready for the madness, the crowded bars, the cheering in the streets. You know, everybody's super excited the Maccabiah Games started. The ceremony, the opening ceremony started was on Thursday. over the weekend we saw everybody with their Maccabiah chains and their T-shirts
Yeah.
getting into all the bars. So
And there's still, I mean, there are a lot of different events that are going to be coming up and that we'll actually be covering in the coming week.
right, that's right.
But I also heard that the son of a very famous soccer legend
Yes,
is here.
Brazilian
correct?
soccer legend's son, Ronaldo Lima's son, Ronald, is 17 years old and is participating in the under 18 Brazilian soccer team.
Right.
So,
Okay, well, let's check out the details of that. And I also would like to hear about what happened on the opening day.
yes.
With delegations arriving, people finding their seats, and then later standing on them waving their flags, the 20th Maccabiah Games are officially here. Everyone at home watching, and more importantly, everyone participating, are more than eager to be here in the Holy Land, taking part in what's been referred to as the Israeli Olympic Games. Jerusalem's Teddy Stadium on Thursday was radiating with excitement and competition, hosting about 10,000 Jewish and Israeli athletes from 80 different countries across the globe, celebrating athleticism, Judaism, and Zionism during Jerusalem's 50th year of reunification. The 2017 Maccabiah Games are the biggest so far in Israel, with a record number of 9,000 athletes participating last year. The Games have already begun earlier last week and will continue until July 18th at the closing ceremony. The Jewish Olympics will include a variety of 43 different sports, including swimming, tennis, and, well, the most popular of all Maccabi sport, soccer. With chants, flags, and complete devotion to one's country, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a heartwarming message to show that our country is home to all Jews and Israelis across the globe. Interestingly enough, the son of famous Brazilian soccer star Ronaldo Lima's son, Ronald, who is not Jewish, will represent his country in the under-17 Brazilian soccer team. Ronald is a member of Sao Paulo's Hibracia, which is a popular club across South America, which acts like a cross between Jewish community centers and a country club. Good for you, Ronald, and good luck to you and your team. But if we're being serious, let's go Israel.
All right, a moving song composed by an incredibly talented group of Jewish, Muslim, and Christian women is now going viral on YouTube, and I actually couldn't help but tear up when I heard it myself.
רכישת רוח ים מנשבת מאי שם וכביסה מתנפנפת לצילי החומה בין الأرض والسماء ناس كتير بعيشوا سوا ما تخافوا.
The hit tune Prayer for the Mothers was released by Israeli folk singer Yael Deckelbaum, but the heartfelt tune was made with 14 different female musicians of all backgrounds. Yael is actually the daughter of legendary folk country musician David Deckelbaum, and she's been performing since she was 8 years old. Her latest song, Prayer for the Mothers, is approaching 4 million views on YouTube, and its idea has been in development since 2014, when the Women Wage Peace movement began during the Gaza Strip conflict. The movement is made up of about 20,000 Jewish and Arab women alike, and it calls for the Israeli government to achieve a peace agreement with the Palestinians by 2018. Last October, thousands of the women participated in the March of Hope project, where they walked all the way to the Dead Sea for a joint prayer for peace. It's fair to say that the music video shows just how powerful the movement truly is. That's it for this week's Roundup. Tune in next Friday for our next episode of This Week in Israel. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from Tel Aviv.